Sex can be had for a lot of different reasons. Me going to Sex Addicts Anonymous was a 3-year journey that I dug deep into to try to figure out why I did some of the things I did. I was in my early 20s. I was, 23, 24, 25 when I was going to meetings, and I went faithfully every Sunday. The very first meeting that I went to, you had to meet with the counselor. So it wasn't something that you just went to a group um, and walked in. They had those type of meetings, but what they were finding with them was that there was a lot of people that were going to hook up with other sex addicts, and that can be extremely toxic. So the group I went to was through the treatment center, through a counselor, and my first session was with just the counselor himself, and it was probably about a 2-hour session into everything about my life. From what age, there was the hard-hitting questions from what age did you start masturbating, to how did you use outlets, to a little bit of everything. So I became a very open book type person, and you signed a contract when you went in that you would not date anyone else in the group. So, my very first session with the group, I found out that I was the very first girl that was in that particular group. And there was 12 men, and they all started out and they went around the room and they told their personal stories. Oh my goodness. It was painful. It was painful to listen to. And the whole time my heart was pounding, thinking that I was going to be telling my story in front of them in a circle. I was in there with college professors, preachers who were married, preachers, teachers, professors, um, a rapist that had got out of prison, and he talked about things that he had done to children. So then it got to me, and I told my acting out and my story. And when I left there, I was so ill. I was very sick by the time I left the meeting. Again, I had an eating disorder, and I pulled over to get something to eat, pulled over on the side of the road, and got sick. I couldn't keep anything down. I even tried it again at the halfway point because I was driving 30 minutes home and thought I'll just put something light in my stomach. I felt like I needed to eat, and again, I got sick. So by the time I walked into my grandmother's, I collapsed on the couch and put my head down, and she said, "Was it that bad?" I said, "I can't even begin to describe." So a couple days later, I went to my therapist, and I told her that, "Hey, look, I think you put me in the wrong group, and there is no way that I'm going back to that group. I don't belong there. I don't need to be in that group." And it was part of my out of rehab program, and she told me that no matter what, I would learn, and that in order to see her, that I needed to participate in the group once a week too. And I just couldn't even get what the connection was, but I wanted help. I wanted things to be different in my life. I wanted to get back to a point of good, so I continued on with both the therapist and with the group. Each week got a little easier. We didn't have to go around and tell from the very beginning to where we were. We had to tell where we were at that moment and what we needed help working on. We took a beginner's token for remaining abstinent. And remaining abstinent could be anything from I needed to remain abstinent from sex. Some people in the group were there because they needed to remain abstinence from masturbation, looking at porn, um, whatever it was that they were addicted to, acting out in a relationship. So there was several different factors that roll into sex addiction. So I learned that even though each one of us had different stories, much like an alcoholic or a drug addict, they don't all use the same drug of choice, that being a sex addict, there's so many different stories and factors in that end up being what brings you to the group, and that everyone can learn and get help from there. And I spent 3 years in the group. I acted out. I had times where I did really great, and I ended up finding a balance. And I think from just being in the group itself, I looked at relationships and men and even women. We had a couple women that come in the group. One woman, she managed to tell her story and was so ashamed. She was an older woman, and I remember feeling so bad for her. Um, I learned a lot about bestiality, sex with animals. Gosh. And she had engaged in that with a pet. And I was disgusted, but I felt bad for her. And I kept hoping that she would come back, but she didn't. And then a girl closer to my age at the time ended up joining the group, and she seemed to be a little bossy and a know-it-all, and her and I conflicted, but it didn't matter. We both were there for a reason, and it's the same way with any 12-step program. You have to respect other people's personalities, boundaries, and identities. You have to know that each one of you are there on your own journey to learn a balance, because to this day, I can honestly say that I find pleasure in sex. I can see throughout my relationship with my ex-husband that sometimes it was used in the most wonderful way, a way of expressing love, a way of reconnecting after we had been distant for a while. We had a rough phase, transition, whatever we were going through, it seemed to be the glue that could connect and get us back to good. In the beginning, if he got angry with me, I wanted to offer up sex as a way to try to make it better, but I also fed off the energy. I definitely know that there's a power in sex, and it should be used in the right way. So I remember him getting angry at me several times when he would be mad, and I would offer sex as a way to, I guess, make amends, an apology, or just to try to fix things. And through that, I had to learn that that wasn't the answer. The essay group that I was in, it fizzled out, and you don't hear of essay groups and meetings anymore. But there are 12-step programs. There's NA and AA. And what I did is I've always subbed out the essay and the eating disorder for an NA group or an AA, because again, regardless, there's something that you learn from being able to share, finding a way to share in the group. And I've also found that people who go to the groups, even if they are dealing with alcohol or drugs, whatever it is they're dealing with, they still deal with the relationship aspect of it. They still deal with, trying to find a balance. There's something about sex that can be so intimate that it almost feels like it fills a void in your life. And if it's right, it can be wonderful. And if you're just doing it because you're acting out, then it can leave you, even if it was the most passionate, wonderful moment, it can leave you feeling extremely empty. So the goal in life is to find that balance, find a way to be able to express yourself. I think as a human being, whether you're a woman, I like to dress up. I like to wear makeup. I like to be sexy. It makes you feel good about yourself if you can, I don't know, work out and tan and do all the things needed to feel like a woman, to feel sexual. That doesn't mean that I have to act out in that manner in order to feel that way. And being able to express myself in that way can be very, very magical. It can be very wonderful. So, thank God for SA. Thank God for the therapists that have guided me through. I believe I've been in therapy for 30 plus years, and it's helped me to be able to find myself. And I still get lost along the way. 53, I'm never going to stop learning ever. There's times when I've even wanted to start my own essay group or a woman support group. But I think men should be included too, because I think that we all deal with issues of self-identity, self-exploration. You just have to find a way to feel good about what you're doing. And if you're not feeling good about it, then it needs to stop. And if you can't stop, then you need to reach out for help. There are different ways that you can do that without even sharing all the way until you feel that you met that person, that safe place that you can express yourself and share. I've always been very open and non-judgmental in trying to let people express themselves and to let them share. Um, Everybody needs that, and everybody has different issues. We're all going through something. That's the main thing. I tell all this because I want to keep sharing, and I can probably dig deeper into some highs and lows and how I ended up at different phases. I can see in my life how I was doing well, and I can see phases in my life where I've slipped and fell and then had to dust myself back off and pick myself up again. And I think through just my upbringing and just starting out at an early age with puberty, we'll go from there, that I was blessed that even with the relationship that me and my mother had, that she was very open enough to explain to me that I needed to be hands-on with myself. I needed to be able to explore my own body and know what pleases me, and then when the time would be right, that it would be good and it would be magical. But if you can't learn to please yourself and know what you like and what pleases you, then you won't be able to be pleased in a relationship. And so I guess I kind of got the green light in puberty to know that it was okay to explore my own body and to feel good about it. And so I never felt that that was wrong. I never felt shamed about it. And I'm grateful that all this happened to me. Me and my mother had a very rough relationship with her drinking, but she taught me a lot of good things in being able to set that base and that self with myself, to know that I could be good with me and that I needed to take care of me. I know when I went through my divorce, I ended up shutting down to where I didn't even enjoy that. And I went through a complete mental breakdown, so I wasn't enjoying nothing about myself. I couldn't find pleasure in just everyday simple things. And that's another thing. If you get to that point where you lose the ability to find pleasure in simple everyday things that used to bring you pleasure and joy, whether it be planting flowers or cooking or baking, or even taking care of yourself, fixing your hair, your makeup. I got my nails done. I always feel good when I get my nails done. And I feel good when my hair's colored and my makeup's on and my house is clean. Um, I've found joy in everyday little things. And I found joy in me again, and that's okay. I know that for me, the right relationship will come along, that I'm going to enjoy sex in the relationship. And you just have to always keep in check with yourself. Say a prayer. Talk to someone if you feel like you're struggling with it and you don't feel right about it. I just don't think that anybody should be ashamed of anything to do with sex. I think they should all be able to express themselves in a very open, loving way. And then that lets it know that bad things can happen out there in the world, and you need to find an escape from that. You need to be able to release it. I've had people ask me why I wanted to share my story, and I know that when something like that happens to you, when you are raped, it can paralyze you. It can take a hold of you and not let you grow. And for me, the more I've told my story, the more I've got it out. It's kind of like purging. The more you purge all that out of yourself, the better you feel about yourself. It's almost like you set yourself free with each story that you tell. I turn it over to God and I let go and I forgive. I forgive myself. You have to forgive. Um, that's all I have for today. I hope everybody has a good day, and I will be back next week to share some more. Thank you.